Hey there. Welcome back to I'm Pretty Sure I Could Fix That. I'm looking to walk through today how we set up new users in QuickBooks Desktop, how to assign roles, along with reset user passwords, and delete users who you no longer want to have access to your QuickBooks file. Overall, it should be a pretty all-encompassing view on user setup, deletion, and management for any administrator. So, first and foremost, for us to even get to our user list in basically our user management hub, we're going to go to our top navigation, click Company, Users, and then Set Up Users and Roles. It will then prompt for our password because you have to be the QuickBooks Desktop administrator. I am logged in under it, but this is a secondary check to essentially make sure that someone didn't hop onto your computer, right? This is something you should be grateful for. So then I'm going to enter my administrator password and hit OK. It then pops up with our user and roles. This is our user management hub. Now, a user is who's logging into QuickBooks, right? The admin, the office manager, the actual person. A role is the privileges that we're assigning to that person. So if we click Office Manager, we can see under these company file roles that they have the role of accounts receivable. That means they can see anything AR related that we have already mapped through the role level. And we'll get through that in a little bit more detail, but essentially, in a nutshell, the role is the actual privilege that that user has access to. So multiple people can be assigned the accounts receivable role. So as you saw, when you click between people's names, it will show you their company file roles. The company file role is what they have access to in your actual QuickBooks Desktop server, right? That's just your local QuickBooks file that you're working in. Your Intuit account roles are essentially, they're on the online side, but it's what they can do with Intuit as a whole and basically the contacts and everything that QuickBooks can do to work with you. So this is the primary admin. That's why you can see here the Intuit account roles is the primary admin. Um, there are certain types of roles that require Intuit account roles, one of them being that primary admin. Our office manager doesn't have any type of functionality where it would require that. Another example is maybe if you're receiving payments using the QuickBooks, you're receiving basically credit card payments. Typically, I believe you would have an Intuit account role assigned with that person who can record deposits and everything and manage that merchant service deposit center, as an example. But for lack of a better term, we're really focused on this company file roles because that's what's controlling this local QuickBooks file. So let's make a new user together to start. We're going to hit new and it's going to pop up with new user. Pretty easy. So we'll assign a username. You can either assign your usernames by job title or by a name, right? So there's a few reasons why you might choose to use someone's name versus their job title, depending on how you're, essentially trying to create the tracking in your QuickBooks. This username is what's going to tag to all of their transactions that will create an audit log for you. So it really is dependent on how do you want to see that audit log generated. Let's say you have two office managers. Well, if you have them share the office manager log on, right, you're not going to be able to see who did what. Does that make sense? But if you have Joanne Smith and Steph Ballerina as two logins, well, then you'll know exactly who made that transaction. Typically, it makes it a lot easier for fact finding and figuring out who did what, along with gaps in knowledge, because you can actually see the audit log. However, your overall QuickBooks account is, I think you get about, depending on which one you pay for, I think you get 30 user logins with 5 seats. So it's just something to be cognizant of. But what we'll do is we will assign a general username. I'm going to do general manager. And then at this point, I can assign a password for them to use at logon. Typically, it is best practice too. You can have them log on the first time without a password and then have it prompt to create one. But why not give them a password to log on with? They then can reset it. But for me, I'm going to do test 1 2 3 4 test 1 2 3 4. So the first time they log on, they'll have to use that password. So then this is where I can assign the available roles. So this is where I would have to know, right, what does each role do? There's a general description that comes through with it. We're going to go through after. I'm going to show you how you update roles, update these descriptions, and basically get a full understanding of what you're assigning this person. But essentially, I'm going to say my general manager should have access to just about everything. I think they should be able to access accounts payable, accounts receivable, banking, external accountant. Oh, not external accountant. That's like one of the few they shouldn't. Um, Inventory. I can also give this full access role. Um, this is a pretty powerful role that you should not just be giving anybody. It lets you clean up company data, import and export data, work with trial balances, blah, 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 but it's pretty powerful. My general manager, I'm going to say, should have access to this. Purchasing, sales, whatever you want it to be. But this is where it's, pretty powerful and that things are going to be able to access. Now, with your roles, roles can have edit privileges and view privileges. So you can have it so someone can see stuff without being able to edit it, which is helpful, right? Sometimes you just need that informationally. So the other thing that you can assign somebody as a whole for your company file is view only. If you assign it, they really aren't allowed to do much, but they can see a lot. So the reason why I selected this view access, if you see there is a star and a caret symbol up, that requires essentially an Intuit account. So I would have to put in my general manager's email address for them to get set up just a little bit additionally. So I'm going to go, you know what? No, just for the sake of this video, I don't need that. And now you can see this is no longer blue, which means it's no longer a requirement. But if I want to give them But let's say I wanted to give them, I don't know, a different one. Let's use payroll processor for whatever reason. Well, you can see it updates blue again, and you need that into an account logon. It's really not much for them to get it set up, but it is just something that QuickBooks requires you to put in that user's email address, just because they do have a higher level of privilege. So we're going to hit remove, and then we'll select OK. Look at that. My general manager was added. I can now see all of their company file roles. So now let's say I just want to print out or I want to see everything assigned to this person, and since they have a printout view, maybe you want it for their HR file, whatever it should be. If you click their username and go to the company file roles and go to manage permissions, I'm then going to select general manager and display. And this gives me basically a more inclusive view of everything that this user can do. I can then print it and save it for whatever records that I need. But you can see here, right, the centers, I have mixed access. I have full edit privileges to some, view to some others. Just an interesting but useful report. Essentially, as part of any type of audit for user access, this is a really good and easy one that you can do. Hey, we have presets for what users can do. I can then periodically print out by my user or my role and responsibility that does that still match? Does that still align? Right? Maybe my general manager isn't allowed the equity register, so they have no access. But I go to do my check and I go, oh my goodness, they have full access. And that becomes a trigger to go, whoa, we have a break in our controls. So now let's talk about those actual roles, right? Those privileges that are being assigned. Well, we're going to jump from the user list over to the role list. Now, this has all of those roles or those privilege settings that I can essentially assign as a whole to the users. QuickBooks gives you essentially all of these as defaults. They give you a place to start, and they're pretty good places to start. It's pretty good and inclusive for the entire for using QuickBooks and assigning privileges. So if you go through and click them, you'll see that there's a general description that QuickBooks automatically gives you, but we can also edit. Along with, if I click one of them, the company file users that are assigned to it. So it's just another way to slice and dice and kind of see, who uses what at a bird's eye view. So let's look at what can someone with banking do. If I select banking and then edit, it's going to pop up with my edit role. So there's the role name, the description that we see generate over here, and my areas and activities for role access. So what I can do is I can foresee that someone with the banking role has no access to any of these tools. See how it says none? And, my little circle isn't full. It's just a nice, quick visual. But obviously, someone with the banking role has full access to banking. So to bank feeds, it's full. To checks, it's full. I can do everything. I can view, create, modify, delete, and print. And then if I expand, let's say my bank registers, it's going to do it in even more detail. This also means you can also modify someone's access at the bank level. So maybe, what, for whatever reason, I only want banking to have partial access to Bank of America. I'm not sure why you would want that, but, you know, they can view it, but they can't do everything in it. So I'll select OK, and look at that. We just edited it. So now if I go back to open, I go, you know what? Oops a daisy, shouldn't have did that. I want full access levels. I'll select OK again, and now they can edit again. So these areas and activities, right, coincide one-on-one with QuickBooks. So for banking, this is going to tie to your bank feeds, which is under here. Your bank registers, right, which is your bank accounts, your checks, which is writing checks. But these all tie one-to-one with functionalities in QuickBooks. If you're looking for me to go through in more detail what each role does, please feel free to leave a comment below. But just for the sake of moving through how to set things up in QuickBooks. I'm not going to go through in detail each and every one of these, but understanding it is important, right? Because, this is control over your QuickBooks file. This is important. In my opinion, you are actually much better off giving more view access or none access than full access to start for somebody and seeing when someone actually has that need. The reason being that when you get that full edit access, right, that just is, it can be ripe with trouble, especially if you don't have predefined users or you don't know what the needs are yet. Because what you don't want to do is give somebody who maybe doesn't have the full knowledge and understanding to use your bank accounts, and all of a sudden you've accidentally deleted 10 checks or whatever it should be. It's typically, you hope it's not malintent, but also you can protect people from themselves, and you can kind of develop that role together and what access levels do they need. That is, of course, saying that you don't already have that pre-developed. If you do have it pre-developed, obviously just get it set up and then you have that predetermined role. So let's talk about making a new role and the many ways that we can do that. And when I say many ways, I mean there's two ways to do it. So I'm going to hit OK and get back. But there's, two ways for us to make new roles. I can either use new, which lets me start from scratch, or I can use duplicate, which is going to let me use a pre-existing role, create a copy of it, and edit it. This is really good for if you're currently using a role, like let's say accounts receivable, who we already have assigned to somebody, and we go, you know what? That has like 80% of my presets that I'm looking for this next user or this next type of user. And I don't want to start from scratch, right? I'm just trying to save time where it gets me 80% there and I can just modify instead of creating. So let's first begin with making a new role though, right? So we'll select new and it just gives us that prompt. So now we're going to assign a role name. This is really up to you. A lot of the roles in Quick, they do a really good job, honestly, outlining it. One that I like to set up is my intern level. My intern typically, they don't know much. So I like to start them at that most basic view of my file and then give them privileges as needed. So I set up a description of view only file for intern, for example, which I can assign for them just to see stuff and just to get basically comfortable with it without being able to edit. Uh, Interns are always trying their best, but they are learning, so we want to set them up for success. So you can modify their privileges as you essentially see they've developed a skill or they've completed your pre-assigned training to be able to do a thing. So I'll start with in accounting, I want them to be able to view it, right? They can't do anything, but they can view it. So in my asset registers, they can view. Heck, I'll even let them print. but there's no edit privileges, right? So it's completely up to you what you want to do. So they can view these. What I'll say is, you know what? You can print and you can create journal entries for whatever reason, but you can't modify or delete. So what that means is, they can make them, but they can't go back and edit ones that have already been posted or delete any, which is, it's more just a control. And then, we'll say for the description, intern permissions, whatever it should be. I decided, I guess randomly now they can create journal entries. But now I can keep working through and assigning that activity access level that I want this individual or this type of individual to be assigned. So for banking, they can view it all. They can't do much, but they can view it. So then we'll say for reports, I want them to totally be able to view everything, because maybe that's where I'm going to have them pull reports and do things outside of the system, whatever it is. But so then I go, okay, this looks good. Okay, look at that. Now I got my intern view. So I can then assign that to a user. And for some reason, my general manager is going to get my intern view. So if I select here and then do add, it now brings it over to, that assigned role like we said before, but those available roles will automatically update with that new role we just created. So that's the way to make one from scratch. The way that you can use that duplicate, again, it's that pretty easy. We'll say that intern view we really like, but we want to slightly modify it for a different intern. Duplicate, look at that, dupe one intern view. So now I'm going to rename it senior intern. I don't know. Got me. We're just making stuff up. And this person is able to, we probably shouldn't give them any of the file functions because those are pretty important. You know what? They are allowed to view my vendors and payables. Okay. So now we have a senior intern and a regular intern view. So just different roles and responsibilities, but essentially different ways that we can assign and manage privileges. So if we decide that, you know what, this intern, ooh, they went nuts with banking. They really shouldn't be able to see that at all. Well, what we'll do, we will double click into it. Bank registers, none. Oops-a-daisy. Should not have given them anything. I'm going to bring everything to the none level. And then anybody who has this intern view permission has now just automatically been updated to not be able to view any of my banking. So anyone who's assigned it, right, it becomes an immediate control to, you can't do that anymore, which means you're able to pivot pretty quickly if somebody does have an incorrect role or access to different areas and activities. So maybe your roles have become, you got way too many. Someone went wild a few years ago and made a role for every user instead of general roles that you assign to users. Well, it's pretty easy to delete them, right? We're going to say that intern view is no longer needed. I'm just going to hit delete. And yes, I want to delete my intern view. So now, if I go to my general manager, who we know had the intern view, well, we can see it's disappeared from being an available option. And now let's do the faded. Ooh, I forgot my password. Could you reset it for me? It's pretty easy. All you got to do, you'll go to the user in here and you'll literally just reassign the password at this level. And you will let them know, here's what your new password is. So then I select OK. Oh, would be nice if I made a match, huh? I will select OK. And look at that, their password was just reassigned. I'll let them know what that new password is, and now they can log in. But you can't get it to show you what their old password is, right? It's just encrypted data. You wouldn't want it to. But you can assign it and you just let them know. So the final thing I want to show you is that permissions report that I originally showed you for the general manager. So just like the general manager, how we were able to see from here what they had access to, I can see that for my roles as well. So let's go to my senior intern and look at that. Now I can see this role has this type of user access. So it becomes just another way that you can control and audit who can do what. Pretty easy, nothing crazy. The real intricacies become making sure that you're making these roles that are, general enough where you can assign them to multiple people, because you don't want to make the Sarah role and the Jamie role, because those individuals, will end up leaving your organization or moving to different positions, and then this becomes non-scalable. You're better off creating these roles with the idea of this is what the job responsibility is, and then that is then assigned to the individual user. So then once a new individual comes in, you're able to assign that role to them instead of having to constantly remake roles every time you hire somebody new, right? That's not scalable at all, and you end up just wasting a bunch of overhead time. But yeah, overall, that is just a quick look on how to set up users and roles in your QuickBooks file. If you're looking for any more detail, please feel free to, leave a comment below, or if you're looking for anything else in QuickBooks that you're looking for more detail on. Again, as always, I know these aren't the most concise videos, but I think they're helpful. So if there is anything I can help you with, please feel free to let me know, and I really will try my best. All right, have a good one, guys. Bye.